Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome back to all lovers of Hadith and Sunnah and the sciences of Hadith and Sunnah to another installment of Hadith Disciple Critical Book Review. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Our work we wish to share with you tonight is called An Introduction to the Conservation of Hadith. In light of the Sahifa of Hammam ibn Munabbih by Dr. Muhammad Hamidullah. An Introduction to the Conservation of Hadith by Dr. Muhammad Hamidullah. This is a great book, one of the most important contributions to the modern Hadith Renaissance for English and for Arabic. The actual Sahifa and its discovery and its preservation, its translation, and the study and the critical discussion and layout that Dr. Hamidullah has achieved. Walillahi alhamd, it's an excellent read, more than worthy of your time and of your effort in reading this work. The book was printed, says here, in 2003 by the Islamic Book Trust in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The first publication was in 1953, and as in Arabic, and the Majallat al-Majma' al-Ilmi in Damascus. And the first English edition was in 1961 in the Islamic Cultural Center of Paris. The Islamic Cultural Center of Paris. So the book is approximately 160 pages in English, and we have an additional 30-page mulhaq, or Arabic appendix. So the book is dedicated in memory of Dr. Muhammad Hamidullah, 1908 to 2002. Then we have the transliteration. Then we have the table of contents, the publisher's note, forward by Dr. Mahmoud Ahmed Ghazi, preface, compilation and preservation of the Holy Prophet's traditions, preliminary remarks, the illiterate Arabs, progress of education among the Arabs after the advent of Islam, the educational policy of the Prophet of Islam, organization of general education, the scribes attendant on the Holy Prophet, the official seal, the compilation of Hadith, Hadith written down officially during the time of the Holy Prophet, constitution, census, letters, patent, letters of proselytism, correspondence with the Jews, instructors to governors, etc., rules and tariffs of taxes, translation of the Quran, some incidental occasions of writing, deliberate arrangements in the Holy Prophet's time for the compilation of Hadith. Then we have an Ansarite, Abdullah bin Amr bin As, Abu Rafi, compilation of Anas, and its correction of, or by the Prophet. Then we have collection of state documents by Amr ibn Hazm, general codification of Hadith in time of the companions, Jabir ibn Abdullah, the mother of the faithful Aisha, Caliph Abu Bakr's codification by the Caliph Umar, rose of the Caliph Ali, Abdullah ibn Abu Awfa, teaching of Hadith by correspondence, the compilation of Samura ibn Jundub, the compilation of Sa'd ibn Ubadah, Abdullah ibn Umar's dictation of Hadith, works of Abdullah ibn Abbas, Hadith correspondence by Al-Mughir ibn Shu'bah, Hadith correspondence by Abu Bakr, a compilation of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, works of the great traditionist Abu Hurairah, Al-Sahifa al-Sahihah, Hammam ibn Munabbih, the preservation of Hammam Sahifa, Isnad or chain of sources, description of the manuscripts, MSS, the Berlin manuscript, MS, the Damascus manuscript, ban on writing down Hadith, conclusion, final remarks, text of Sahifa of Hammam, certificates of authentication in the MSS, MS of Berlin, MS of Damascus, on the title page, at the end of the text, bibliography, index, appendix, Arabic text of the Sahifa of Hammam. Then we have the publisher's note, which speaks on Dr. Hamidullah, him as a person and his legacy, where he came from, his qualifications, the languages that he learned, and the things that he put forth for himself and for others. We'll summarize that for now, and that was written in 1424-2003 by the Islamic Book Trust in Kuala Lumpur. Then we have the foreword. Then after the foreword comes the preface. After the preface comes the first chapter. On the back of the book, the excerpt, it says, since the middle of the 19th century, several Orientalists had come out with a series of works challenging the authenticity of Hadith material. Their starting points were that the major collections of Hadith had been compiled in the 3rd century, and that these compilations were based on oral transmission, which, in their estimate, provided much scope for misreporting, adding and altering traditions from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Dr. Hamidullah discovered some very early collections of hadith preserved in the libraries of Turkey, France, and Germany. On the basis of these collections, he refuted the misgivings spread by Orientalists, thus paving the way for other scholars to establish definitively the historicity of evidence or of hadith material with convincing arguments and wealth of historical evidence. In order to substantiate his thesis about the dual method of transmitting a hadith, written and oral, Dr. Hamidullah selected one of the earliest collections of hadith by Hammam ibn Munabbih, died 719 of the Common Era, 101 of the Hijrah, a close disciple of Abu Hurairah, the Prophet's companion. Tight. Then it goes on to speak on Dr. Hamidullah was born on February 9th, 1908 in Hyderabad, India, completing his early education in Hyderabad at Darul Uloom Secondary School, Nizam College and Usmania University, where he obtained his master's and LLB degree and studied in Europe and obtained a doctorate from Bonn University and later D.Lit from Sorbonne University, France. Described as a scholar's scholar, he was fluent in 22 languages and is credited with around 1,000 research papers and more than 160 books in a wide range of subjects in Islamic studies. He lived the major part of his life in Paris and translated the Quran into French. Dr. Hamidullah died on December 17th, 2002 in Florida, USA. So the book is a very great book. It's an excellent book. Of course, it isn't a perfect book. We have a lot to say about the book. Let's get started with our system, bidnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll skip the publisher's note for now and the forward as well, whereas they're a bit lengthy. And let's get started, inshallah ta'ala, with the notable quotes. The notable quotes are almost endless in the book. From those on page 5. It says, progress of education among the Arabs after the advent of Islam. It was not surprising that under circumstances such as these, the people of Arabia did not seem inclined towards the acquisition of learning in the pre-Islamic times. What, however, is surprising is that the period intervening between the days of dark ignorance and the later blazing forth into splendor of the Islamic arts and literature was the shortest that history has ever recorded. No analogy of such a sudden transition from darkness to light could ever be found in any previous age. It is said that at the time of the advent of Islam, there were no more than 17 persons in the city of Mecca who knew how to read or write. And as regards the city of Medina, the number of those who knew the art was even smaller. Now that's something very deep and very profound. A city like Mecca, and only 17 people knew how to read and write. The Prophet ﷺ had not died, he had not passed on and left this life. How many people learned how to read and write? How many scholars were there? So that goes to show you the freight train, the steam rolling of the dawah of Islam, like no other part in human history in which so many people had learned so much, so fast than al-Islam. Then after page 5, we have another notable quote, which can be taken from page 7. The author says, and we'll read it briefly. It says, it may be noted that the Arabs of the time could neither in number nor in armaments and equipment with their opponents. It would have been considered unseemly at the time to speak of them in the same breath as the Eastern Romans, the Byzantines, or the Iranians, with whom they came in contact, and who in the art of warfare had reached a height of perfection, unknown to and undreamt of by the Bedouins converted to Islam. What then was the secret of their phenomenal success? And lay above all in the fact that the Muslim Arabs had not left their homes and tents in search of booty or plunder, as they used to do in the pre-Islamic days, but with the sole aim that the name of God alone should prevail. The results achieved were immediate consequence of their innate capacities, etc., to the end of the quote. Then we have on page 12, after arrival at the city of Medina, the first task undertaken by the Prophet was the construction of what is now called the Prophet's Mosque, Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. And one part of the building was erected a thatched platform, a sufa. This was the first residential university of Islam. At night, the students slept there. During the day, the teachers appointed for the purpose taught them their letters and instructed them in the tenets of religion. Abdullah ibn Sa'id ibn al-As was one such instructor in the art of writing. He was a calligraphist, and he became known even during the pre-Islamic days of ignorance, Jahiliyyah, as Al-Katib, scribe, Ubadah ibn Samit reports that he was appointed by the Holy Prophet to teach the Sufa, the art of writing, and also imparting knowledge of the Quran. And we have many other quotes on page 15, page 16, page 18, page 19, 20, 24, 45, 46, 48, 50, 72, 74, 75, 79, 80, 84, 91, and 92. Perhaps we'll take a quote from the middle of the book. Let's go to page 45. We said there are abundant quotes. It says, Abdullah ibn Umar's dictation of hadith. It is not known whether Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab had himself written any hadith, but there is an account in the Tabaqat of Ibn Sa'd narrated by Salman ibn Musa to the effect that he saw Abdullah ibn Umar dictating his freed slave Nafi', who was busy writing. Nafi' was a very learned man and the ablest of the pupils of Abdullah ibn Umar. He had spent full 30 years in the company of his teacher and must have acquired from him all that was to be learnt. Abdullah ibn Umar used to say with pride, the existence of Nafi' amongst us is a very great blessing of God. Then we have, let's say on page 80, another notable quote. We began our humble research by referring to Brocklaman, and we were sorry to find that he has committed many errors of oversight. He has not mentioned this Sahifa under the name of Hammam ibn Munabbih. We made long research and luckily by mere chance found, that's not what we want to read. It's not on page 80. It's a different quote, excuse me. Page 79, before that, that's an error. It says, these are facts which cannot but impress the mind in any scholar and confirm our trust and reliance on the books of hadith in general. He says, these are facts that can do nothing but impress one's mind and do nothing but strengthen the resolve and the confidence and the belief of one's testimony or one's faith in the hadith being preserved and preserved in the proper manner. The last quote that we'll mention, inshallah ta'ala, for lack of time, because there are many of them, let's say on page 92. It says here we have dealt with only one aspect to serve as an introduction to the edition of an MS on hadith, namely the history of the writing down of the hadith in the lifetime of the Prophet himself, or soon after, by those who had first-hand knowledge of the material. Recording, learning by heart, controlling the copies of those who were authorized to transmit further the same knowledge, quoting the source of each and every individual report were the methods adopted. There was no question of the foreigners not knowing the customs and sentiments of the Melu concerned, but of indigenous scholars, sympathetic towards the subject, devout and pious in their approach, and they're scrupulous to the extreme. These were human beings, no doubt. But if one were to compare the historical methods used for the time of the Prophet with the modern, the newspaper reports, not exempt from willful misinterpretations, official documents intentionally misleading and ambiguous, historians suffer from insufficiency of documents, unverifiable statements, the hadith were proved to have come down to us in a way that was nothing more was humanly possible. Thus, the Sahifa of Abu Hurairah prepared for his pupil Hammam ibn Munabbih constitutes etc. to the end of the quote. Tight. Khayr, inshallah. Let's move forward. So we have many quotes that are notable. You can read them yourself, inshallah. As far as the specific sins, then there are a few. From them is on page 8. The author, he says, the education policy of the Prophet of Islam. It says, it is well known that the Prophet of Islam was illiterate. The Holy Quran testifies that he knew neither reading or writing. And he quotes, and before this, thou didst not recite, O Muhammad, a book, nor transcribe it with my right hand. Then might those have doubted who talk vanities. So it says, with my right hand. Who is speaking in this verse? Allah or the Prophet, or Allah speaking to the Prophet? So if Allah is speaking to the Prophet ﷺ, it is improper, whether it's a typo or a translation, to say my right hand. Muhammad is not speaking first person. The Prophet ﷺ is not speaking first person. Allah is not speaking about himself, but Allah is speaking in third person, or he's speaking to second person to the Prophet ﷺ. Biyaminika, with your right hand. So that's an error. Whether it's a typo or an actual scientific error, Allah knows best. But it's not a simple mistake. Page 14 says here, it says, Ibn Taymiyyah al-Siyasa al-Shar'iyya. We're reading the footnotes. Page 8, Tabari Tarikh 1, 1788, Al-Mawardi al-Ahkam al-Sultaniyya. It says, even if these words cannot be traced in authentic hadith, nobody contests the sense. No one can contest their meaning. So he's talking about a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ is supposed to have said. Okay, it says, I am the abode of learning. He says, I'm the prophet of battle, and I'm the prophet of mercy, and I'm also the abode of learning. So the concept of it not being an authentic hadith and having authentic meaning isn't an issue of discussion or debate. But for a person to just laxly open up the door and allow a hadith to be narrated and quoted and attributed to the Prophet ﷺ just because it has a good meaning, and it says it doesn't matter because no one can differ on that meaning, is very dangerous, especially to a basic reader. Then we have on page 51, the author says, as a jurist, Abu Hurairah does not hold a high position occupied by either the four rightly guided caliphs or Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Lady Aisha, Abdullah ibn Umar, and others. But if, from his accounts of what he saw and heard, should be separated his personal opinions, he is assuredly an invaluable source and a reliable fountainhead as far as the traditions of the Holy Prophet are concerned. So as if the author is saying here that Abu Hurairah was not a faqih, and he was not a person of knowledge and fiqh and fahm, but at best, he was a narrator of hadith. And he wasn't like Aisha, he says Lady Aisha or Ibn Mas'ud or the caliphs and so on and so forth. That's incorrect. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu was from the people that gave a fatwa. He gave fatwa in Medina. He was a teacher and he was well known and respected for his fiqh and not just his hadith. Page 83, the author says, in the footnotes, Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, Taqid al-Ilm, Damascus, 1949, page 2932. The entire Sahifa is mentioned in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. And it's also spread out and split up in Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, Sunan Abi Dawud, etc. So it is a complete whole chunk of hadith that was written down in the early days and survived over 1,000 years. So him translating it, editing it, talking about it, discussing it without a question is groundbreaking. The second pro of the book is that the book is rich in historic content. Number 3, the book is highly scientific. Okay, it's not any man booster book. It's full of science. It's full of knowledge, full of dates, full of places, full of all types of knowledge-based things. Number 4, the book has proper citation. It's done academically. Number 5, the book is rich in cultural and social introductions. Like we read, the social status of the Arabs before Islam. And a very excellent point that he proves in the book is that not only did Islam help out the Islamic literature and the Islamic sciences, but it also helped out Arabic, the Arabic letter, or the Arabic letters, the Arabic alphabet, the Arabic language, the Arabic poetry. All of those things were bolstered because of Islam. So that's very important. Number 6, the book gives critical commentary in the margins and footnotes occasionally. Number 7, the book is rich in geographic content and connection. Syria, Damascus, North Africa, etc. Number 8, the author, or is abundant information on the author. We know who he is, where he studied, where he died, how he lived, etc. In many books that we have reviewed here on the channel, there's no information available on the author whatsoever. Number 9, the book is rich in seerah content. Number 10, there's a detailed bibliography. Number 11, there's a detailed index. And these things make your studies easier. It makes it faster for you to find something that you're looking for. And one who's studying for 10 hours out the day, or 12 hours out the day, or 14 hours out the day, he realizes the importance of 30 minutes and 3 minutes. The difference between the two. 30 minutes to look for something and 3 minutes for me to look for it and find it. It's a huge percentage of adding to your time. Number 12, the appendix has the full original Arabic text. The full original Arabic text of the entire Sahifa is mentioned in the appendix. Number 13 is a meticulous scholastic detail from the author in many places found in the book. So those are the 13 pros of the book. As far as the cons of the book, then first and foremost, the author has mentioned a few weak narrations without pointing them out. It's not haram to mention a weak narration if you mention it and explain it, or even just point out in basic. Number 2, insufficient takhrij. In many places, there insufficient hadith reference. Number 3, the author isn't a specialist on the field of hadith. Him learning 22 languages and writing these different academic journals and so on and so forth, and having this degree from this university in France or in Germany, that's beautiful. But it isn't a degree, and it isn't a field of speciality of hadith. And it's something that we find in most of the books written on hadith in the English language. Number 4, there are no vowels in the Arabic text. In the Arabic text quoted, he doesn't put the diacritical marks, which will help out the reader. Number 5, there are occasional typos and sometimes things that alter the meanings, like we read on page 8 with regards to the Prophet's right hand speaking directly to the Prophet, or indirectly to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So just a few cons in light of many pros. So the grade that we give the book, in light of its paramount and groundbreaking status and the work that the author has put forth and the contribution made to the Hadith Renaissance, is 4.5 quills. 4.5 quills out of 5 quills. It's an excellent book. If you get a chance, buy this book, inshallah ta'ala. An Introduction to the Conservation of Hadith. It is a brief, summarized review. When you read the book, I'm sure you'll be more than pleased with the fawaid and the science that you come across. Until the next episode, Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you very much for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.